Now today we'll be installing a dash cam that includes a backup camera. And I want to thank OUMAX for sending this out to us. This is a pretty interesting device. I'll include a link to their Amazon store. If you like what you see here, you can just click on the link in the description box and it'll go right to their store. But right on the flip side, obviously this goes right over your rear view mirror. You have some mounting straps, and we'll do a full installation with the wiring and everything in a moment. But on the flip side, this is an HD camera that not only records in HD, but also takes 30 frames per second in terms of still images. So that's a very nice plus. And then, it's hard to see on camera, but you'll see once we install everything. There's a rectangle display right here. It's 4.3 inches. And the way that this works, when you put the car in reverse, the feed coming from this camera lights up right here. And you'll see exactly what's going on behind the vehicle. Everything you see here is included in the kit. So you have your power accessory that plugs into here. This is your USB. Okay. An AV input, which is this guy. This plugs in right there. You have a micro class 10 is included with this class 10 16 gig card that goes right there, and that's it. On the back you have a reset button, which is right here. Your mic is right here. There's also a motion sensor, so if someone hits your vehicle while parked, you can get some images. So that's a really nice plus as well. Now, very quickly before we begin, I just want to insert the micro card just so you can see how this is inserted. Let me take this out again. Okay. That's the direction that you want. Press it down. There you go. Okay. So the first step is installing the dash cam right over the rear view mirror, and the kit includes these straps. I'll come in for a different angle in a moment. It's a little hard with the camera here, but just attach the straps here. Now the key thing here is, let me just get this on. Okay, the key thing is, let me grab the camera. You want to make sure that the camera is not being blocked by your factory mirror. Okay, so make sure the camera is, in this case, to the left of it. Make sure it's nice and secure, and then we can move on to the next step. So now I'm going to remove the A-pillar from the vehicle. To do that, I'm using a trim removal kit. I'll include a link to the description box below, right to Amazon. This runs for maybe 12 bucks or so. Terrific tool to have, or tools to have, if you plan on removing interior pieces on your vehicle. Now this is what I mean when I say A-pillar. Right from the bottom of the windshield all the way up to the headliner, you have a cover that you want to remove. And I'm going to hide the wire behind the A-pillar, come straight down. Then you can either go under the carpet, or if you want to hide it underneath and tape it to the underside of the glove box. Doesn't really make a difference, whatever works for you. And then right to the power outlet. So I take my trim removal tool, and there you go. Makes the job very easy. And if you're curious on how this is held in, it's just a clip usually, and it holds in just like so. Sometimes you'll find a screw on the outside that you can just remove, something like a 10mm screw. In this case, just unclip it and you're good to go. So same with this, they're just clips. I know the lighting's a little bad here, but there you go. They're just clips on the back of here. And then right over here, let me grab one of these. Let me just come out so you can see what I'm doing here. There we go. Okay, let me place the camera down. I'm just going to feed the wire behind here. And then I'm just tucking the wire behind the glove box here. It's certainly an acrobatic workout doing this, that's for sure. And fortunately enough, this wire just makes the length. We just have enough, which is great. Okay, so everything is nice and clean. I placed the A-pillar back on the vehicle, coming back down. All the trim pieces are back in, as you can see. Ran the wire underneath, comes right here. And there you go. If you really want to go beyond this, you can remove this console, drill a hole over here, put this right through, put everything back together, sort of hide it in a sense if you want to. That's perfectly fine as well, whatever works for you. Now let's test this out. Let me get my keys here. Now as a quick test before we install the rear view camera. So it's a good size. Again, this is 4 0.3 inches, and I still have the protective cover on the camera as well as the rear view mirror here, so it's a very, very good view. It's a little hard to see with the reflection, but once I have everything hooked up, we'll go for a drive. I'll even do this at night as well, but pretty darn cool. Okay, now let's go ahead, and also, by the way, you can turn this off as you drive. I think it's this one, and there you go. So it's still recording, but it's just off. Or you can leave it on, whatever you want to do. Okay, let's start with that rear view camera. So now we're going to connect the rear view camera. Now to do that, you need to wire it directly to one of your reverse lights. So you have the passenger side and the driver's side. I'll do the passenger side. And now there's a couple ways you can verify you have the right wiring. So it's right here in this case. So step number one, or option number one, is just don't turn on the car, turn the ignition key on, put the car in the R position, put on your handbrake so it doesn't roll anywhere, and make sure that the reverse lights turn on, and I'll show you a different way using a multimeter. So ignition key on, I'm not starting the car. Okay, handbrake is up, and as you can see, the reverse lights are on. That's option one. There's another option with the multimeter. Let me show you that one. Now, not every vehicle is as simple as this. If you're looking at the wiring, you're not exactly sure if you have the right connections. If you take a look here, we have a green and then there's a black wire to the left of it. Green is positive, black is negative. So what you can do is a voltage reading using a multimeter. These are terrific tools to have. Lowe's, Home Depot, Amazon, your local auto parts store. But what you want is the volts DC setting. You can get a really good one for maybe $20, $25 at most. But what we're going to do is hook one lead up to the green and the other one to the black, and we should see 12 volts worth of power. So let me just hook everything up and I'll come right back. So again, here's our harness connector. So from the multimeter we have two leads, a red and a black. Red is your positive, black is your negative. So red lead would go to this guy, okay, the green wire, and the black would go to this guy. So we have 11 volts worth of power. That verifies that we have the right wiring. So very quickly before we start the wiring, let me just explain a couple different things. So the red wire coming from the rear view camera goes to your green or your positive. Black goes to black or ground. So black can also go to any good metal point. If you are drilling through your trunk, for example, just rust proof it. Put a little primer once you're done, just because you don't want any rust to grow over the years. With that being said, the next step is the next thought is, how do I actually do this? You can simply just cut the wire, for example, and solder everything together. Now that's a little cumbersome, especially if you don't have a soldering iron. Another option, when we did the touchscreen radio install, we used these wonderful, these are, what are these? Posi products. These do a really nice job of connecting wiring, because you don't have to do any soldering whatsoever. I'll include a link to that video, and I'll mark how many minutes in the video. It's like 11 minutes into the video I do the wiring. But you can also do that. I'm going to do a little bit of a different technique. Now another technique you can do is, let me zoom out here so you guys don't lose what I'm doing here. Another technique you can do is remove the actual prongs inside the harness connector. Okay, so there's a tab on each side, very small. Let me get my hand in here. Here we go. Very small flathead, and I'm just going to back off the end. Okay, you guys can see that okay? As this pulls out, okay? Okay, grab that screwdriver again. Now if I sort of lost you there, again you have these two prongs on the side. I just push them to the side and this lifts up. Then looking on the inside, right on the bottom, there's a plastic, it's completely flat. Okay, let me get a different view. So right here, if I could do this, if I have a steady enough hand, right here, what that flathead is on, you press that down very slightly, and then you'll be able to remove these prongs, okay? It's a little hard to see on camera, but that's all it takes. You just push down the bottom, And there you go. So what I'm doing is I'm just pulling back these prongs, and I'm going to insert the red wire here and clamp it down, insert the black wire here and clamp it down. Now again, you don't have to go this crazy. You can simply just peel this back, cut the wire, splice everything together, and you're really ready to go pretty quickly. But again, I don't know how long this camera will even be in this vehicle, to be quite honest, so I just want to keep this as clean as possible, and this is the route I'm going. So I have the red wire coming from the rear view camera going to our green, and then this is our black, as you can see. That's our black, which is going to the black wire. Now everything's a little messy. I need to clean everything up, you know, trim some of this, make it nice and neat, maybe use a couple of zip ties and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to clean everything up. We'll test it, and we'll wrap up the installation. So this is the cable running from the camera, and you just want to plug it into, right on top, plug it right in. Let me clean this up real quick. Okay, keys, grab my keys, and here we go. Okay, now I know you have a glare, but let me just put this into, come on, there we go, and there you go. So everything is hooked up correctly, which is fantastic. So what we're going to do is essentially clean this up. In other words, I'll run this under the carpet, up the A-pillar, essentially opposite what we did before, and then back down, and we're pretty much there. So now I'm just sizing up where I need this camera to live. Now I did remove the taillight. The reason why I did that is because I don't want to drill through the trunk if I don't have to. And in this case, the taillight came out with 1, 2, 3 bolts, popped right out, and it was easy enough. So here's my wiring, making my connection. So that's easy enough. And then regarding the camera itself, the instructions state a very good spot is right above the middle of the license plate. Now the problem I'm having is the license plate is roughly 6 1/4 in thickness, and the top of the body of the camera is striking where this trunk curves up, and also the bottom. So if we look right to the right of the license plate light is a perfect spot. So I'll make my drill points. Now one other thing to note, the manual states that you need a 7/32 of an inch drill bit. That is an incredibly large drill bit for the screws that came with my kit. What I found to be a very good size is 7/64 of an inch. And the kit also includes this really nice foam backing, which is it's a nice touch, because don't forget this is metal on metal. It can scratch up, so it's a really nice plus that they include that foam backing. So just to show you the wiring, I just have to clean it up a touch. In other words, get this wiring on the inside of the trunk. And I have to get one of these plastic wire looms, just like what you find here. You have these plastic wire looms. So I'll get the same thing for this. But the way that I did this is I found an opening right where the top latch is for the child seating. So let me show you from the inside. And here's the wire coming from the trunk. Of course, you can still use a baby or a kid's seat. And then the wire runs behind the seat. And then I lifted up the plastic paneling for the rear running boards, or right along the running boards, and also the front. And then, of course, led that up the A-pillar and plugged it directly into the rear view mirror. Now, I know we have a bit of a glare, but let me just go over some of the features. I did take it for a quick test run. It works pretty easily and pretty well. Now, the larger quadrant, or the larger view, is the front camera. On the upper right hand side is the rear camera, and you could change that. If you toggle, you have a left arrow. If you toggle or hit that, and then it goes to larger view rear camera, smaller view front camera. Then you can change it again, full front or full rear, and you can completely shut it off. So in other words, if you're driving, you don't want to see anything, that's perfectly fine. If you want to see what's behind you as you drive, you can do whatever you want. Now, one other feature is that it records both the front camera and the rear camera at the same time. So when you upload any images or any video, you'll see two different files. One is for the front camera, the other file is for the rear camera. Now, as you see, we're in the recording mode. You can change that also if you want to do still images. So it's you have a lot of options here, and you can play back right on the camera, right on the rear view mirror. So pretty cool. It's not touchscreen, but you can do everything just by all these buttons here. This is the menu. We have a number of different options: resolution, photo quality, cyclic record. So in my case, I have it every 3 minutes. Date stamp, you can turn on and off. Language, LCD brightness. Let's see what else is here. Recording, which is on. Beep sound, if you turn that on, it just makes a beep every time you hit these buttons, so I like it off. Parking guard, that's this guy right here. Right now it's off. If you turn this on, the way that it works is if it senses that your vehicle was hit, it will automatically start recording, and it's encrypted. So in other words, even if you have the loop, let me go back up here. Even if you have cyclic recording on, it doesn't matter. It's encrypted, and that file is saved. So that's a nice feature, especially if you work, you know, something New York City, Bronx, Queens, whatever the case may be. So it's a nice plus for sure. Gravity sensing. What else we got here? White balance, exposure, frequency, motion detection. Motion detection, essentially, the camera's on standby, and then once it detects motion, it starts recording. And again, that's also encrypted. So you have a lot of different options on here, which is pretty cool. And what I'll do is I'll splice in the video of the front camera and the rear camera. The front camera is very, very good. The quality is quite good, especially this goes for $70. I think it's really a nice buy because you get a lot of nice features. The rear camera is not bad. It's fine, you know, just for backing up, making sure there's no children behind you, no bicycles, you know, no pets, nothing like that. And it just does the function perfectly fine. So, you know, I was never really interested in dash cams, but it's pretty cool. It surprised me. So I think what I'm going to do is just keep on playing with it. Once this is uploaded, any questions, concerns, how has it performed, anything like that at all, just leave a comment or a question in the description box, and I'll get back to you. So thank you for watching. Again, if you're interested in this, I'll include a link in the description box below. I'll also feed in some nighttime shots. And until then, we'll see you next time.